This is the fourth episode in our Inspiration Session series, specially created for Elevate by our learning partner, Matt Bolton-Alarcón of Special Source Training. Our guest speaker on this episode is Samme Allen, the CEO and founder of conferenceemcees.com, a global network of professional conference emcees, moderators and facilitators. This elite team deliver in-person, virtual or hybrid professional hosts anywhere in the world for conferences and events from 6 to 60,000. My conversation with Sam is a masterclass in confident communications. Learn how improv can drive confidence, how stress is a positive thing if you can channel it, and what happens when you believe and act as if it is impossible to fail. If you hate networking, feel sick before pitches, and the thought of public speaking makes your blood run cold, this is for you. Sam herself is an award-winning MC, speaker and presenter who's been working with global audiences for over 25 years. She's also one of our mentors here at Elevate. These are all reasons why Sam is the perfect person to give this talk.
Samme Allen, hello.
Hello, Mr. Kerwood. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us. Or joining me. There's no one else here.
There will be at some point. We will have, hopefully, listeners to this podcast. So we can welcome them and say, hi, everyone.
Welcome the Elevate community. So thank you for doing this. Tell me a little bit about what it is you do.
Well, thanks to Team Elevate for having me on this podcast. It's really nice, to spend 25 minutes with you talking about things that hopefully will be really useful for our Elevate folk out there, our Elevate community. I am the CEO and founder of conferenceemcees.com. We are the first and only global resource for professional conference MCs. We source those MCs around the world. We've got 20 incredible pros at the moment. So whether you want to host in San Francisco or Sydney, we have someone certainly nearby who can help reduce that carbon footprint, but then increase and elevate that attendee experience. We also have a design studio where we're working with our clients to design very, very cool and exciting events and conferences. And we have an academy, which is probably going to tie in very nicely to what we're going to be talking about today, where we offer masterclasses and coaching in emceeing, confidence, communications, presentations, so on and so forth. And yeah, hopefully we're going to do a little mini masterclass in communicating with confidence from someone who has to stand on a stage in front of people.
Got it. And would you say you're an introvert or an extrovert?
I am the classic introverted extrovert.
Right.
So I think our friends in the community who know me will have seen me on a stage somewhere, in the industry, in a room, working the floor, chatting away. I find that all, including I'm a professional MC myself, I find it very, very challenging. And I, showing a bit of vulnerability here, very, very good at it, but it isn't something that has naturally come to me. I've worked really hard. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I use that a lot in my preparations for any of the front-facing public speaking, pitching, or being on the stage hosting and emceeing an event for a client. So yeah, the introverted extrovert is definitely something I can empathize with.
Oh, that's interesting. I've seen you in action. You would never know that you're an introvert. That's amazing.
The stories around that in terms of people. So I coach people. That's one of the, the wonderful things we have in the academy. And I certainly coach my speakers when we're about to go on stage. And we're there, and you can just imagine, we've all been in that moment where we're about to go onto a stage and they're sort of looking green and they're like, oh, I bet you don't ever feel this sick. I said, I feel sick every single conference I host.
Before you go on stage?
Before I go on stage,
yeah.
There is a moment. So I've looked after everybody. I've got everybody pumped up. I'm at that point, and it usually happens when I start seeing delegates coming in. And then suddenly, and I'm almost waiting for it, and it hits me in the solar plexus. I'm like, oh, there it is. And it just is this overwhelming feeling of, oh my goodness, I feel so sick.
Yeah.
I can't do it. And then it stays with me, and I have to flip it into adrenaline. And the second I either walk up the stairs or walk onto the stage, it goes.
When you say you flip it to adrenaline, you tell yourself that it's excitement, right?
It's a positive feeling. And if you look into the psychology of stuff, and we spend a lot of time doing what we do, is that stress is a positive thing if you can channel it. De-stress is not. So that moment where you go, right, that means, number one, I care. I want to do a great job. I want to make sure those attendees have the best experience they can, or I want to get the best out of this networking event, whatever it might be. So that moment of feeling, is something that everyone should channel. And the moment that you don't have it is the moment that you need to hang up your boots and stop doing the stuff that you're doing.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter anymore to you.
Yeah. Got it. So we're going to talk about networking and your reframing of networking.
We're not going to use that word. We've got to figure out a new word for it. So yeah.
Yeah. Personally, can't stand the word networking or networking itself. So any help you can give me would be brilliant. And then improvisation and what you've learned from your experience as an MC. And I mean, what I'd just love to know how to walk into a room, no matter where you are, whether you're on stage or whether you're a meeting or an event or whatever, that would be really useful for me and probably loads of other people. So your tips on that would be great.
Networking. It's the elephant word. I think I know a lot of our Elevate community are busy either pitching for events, running events, talking to clients about events. And I would ask the question of everybody is how many times when you start talking about the objectives of the event that a client says, we want everyone to network, and we all go away and we put people in a great big room with booze and expect something really incredible to come out of it. And that's what we call networking.
Yeah.
And everybody, or 75% of the room who aren't the extroverts, are dreading every second. So as they walk into the room, they'll show it. Peter, I think that you will be nodding your head on this sort of thing. So from your body language to how you mentally prepare for it, it's a no-go.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the word is, but when we talk about this with our clients, when we're designing, we really delve into the why. Why are you doing the networking? And I think we need to get a bit more shameless and be okay with not calling it networking. What are we wanting to do? Are we wanting to facilitate meaningful connections? Are we wanting to facilitate business sales opportunities? Or are we simply just wanting to socialize? It's okay. I think, again, we don't meet as much as we used to. When we do meet, we want either to change the world or we want to make the world a better place. So bringing a bit of joy and saying, actually, we want people just to connect and have a good time.
Yeah.
That's okay as an objective. I think the word networking, especially for the next generations, it's got working in it.
Yeah, it's so true.
So that's the sort of negative connotations of the usual output. So I come from the school and I know we've got some incredible people in the community, Castlebell, legends of recruiters.
Yeah.
And in the good old days when you used to wear recruitment, and I was a recruiter back in the day, back in the sort of early 2000s, you might as well have had the leper on your lanyards or your badge. And so, you're on the back foot because straight away the word recruitment filled the room with dread. And I think some of the tools that we can give people probably come from my experiences doing that, is that organizers of these networking events, and I know Elevate do this really well, need to become facilitators as opposed to organizers. So, before you've even walked into the room, the people who are creating whatever this is, whether it's the social, whether it's the creating meaningful experiences, whether it's the sales opportunities or a mixture of all of it, really have to think about how you're going to do that for the people who are coming in. So I'm putting the onus on the organizing side before you, because if you are in the room, you've got an environment that makes you feel comfortable, then you're going to be able to be the best version of you. So I think we all need to work better at looking at how we can do that. And again, I think we'll probably touch on emotional intelligence, but empathy. Understand that people who are coming in the room, are they people like you, Pete, that, really truly have that sort of anxiety before we come in? How can we change that?
Yeah.
Simple way. We can welcome people when we come in. And I remember this very, very thing back in the Barbican, and I used to work at the Barbican. This is before I worked there. It was my first ever proper networking event as a recruiter.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely bricking it. I don't know anybody. It's an MPI event, actually. And I'll never forget it. And I'm going to name check him, whether he's listening to this, but Damien Hutt. And I'm going to name check her, Jane Haig, who works at Excel. Many people will probably know them.
Oh, Jane.
And I went and I got my badge, and I can feel the experience already talking to you. I've got this dry mouth.
Yeah.
That whole moment, this feeling, and my heart rate's up I'm probably a bit sweaty, especially if I was in the conservatory of the Barbican because it's lovely and warm. And I had barely crossed over the threshold of the room when Damien came up to me and said one word, which sort of changed everything, and that was welcome. Then he asked me the question, why are you here? What do you want to get out of this? And I said, I don't know anybody in the industry. I want to learn about the events industry. I'm a recruitment consultant, so I'm shamelessly, I need clients. And he said, let me introduce you to Jane Haig. Jane Haig came and talked to me, and turns out she needed some help with recruitment. So
wow,
that one conversation suddenly made me realize that actually you don't know what people want when you're going into a room and selling it. People really like to help people. So Damien was doing this as he was an MPI board member, but he was there to help facilitate the experience that I had, which then in turn, I signed up to become an MPI member. I then joined a committee. I became a president, The whole thing was a bit self-fulfilling. Yeah, I think that whole organising piece needs to be done better in our own events in the industry than, as well as our client events.
I love it. That's a great story. Jane's amazing.
Jane is amazing. And, from that, it gave me the confidence. And then, again, when we were talking about it's a marathon, not a sprint for an introverted extrovert.
Yeah.
So for those folks out there who feel that way, is you just have to keep on, climbing on the saddle and doing it. So if you're not blessed with having that community where there is that facilitation piece in there, I think some of the things that you can do for networking is remember a couple of things about you and yourself. And I know that Evie did the great podcast on imposter syndrome. So I would say, listen to Evie's podcast, prepare yourself. I think the days of, downing a couple of shots before you go into a networking event probably are mostly over.
I think they're over.
And they probably don't help. I mean, I have to say now sort of moving into the networking world as a non-drinker, A, you get a lot more out of it because you remember it. B, I'm seeing people who are drinking during these sessions and I don't want to work with those people.
Yeah.
So think about your own personal brand. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Look and feel good when you walk into that room. Again, on the side of a stage, may sound silly, but if you speak to any of my speakers or the participants who've seen the outcome, I make those who are able do star jumps. They do 10 star jumps before they go on stage. Now, I don't suggest that we do this on the podcast because the sound would be there. But we did talk about, I have been an energetic gym session before doing this podcast.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
To raise my energy. Do something to raise your energy. Go for a walk. Get that heart rate going a little bit. Don't down 16 cups of coffee because you'll get the jitters and you won't know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But, think about it as a physical thing around your personal branding. Wear something you feel comfortable in. Wear something that you don't mind a badge going on.
Yeah.
And isn't going to be sort of an awkward moment where do I put this? I know this probably sounds super cheesy. Smile. I think most people will know me as me for my teeth and my lipstick. But I'm wearing bright red lipstick now because we are talking and we're learning and we're performing.
What did I say before you came on? I said, we're not recording this as it's only audio. And you said, we are performing, Peter. So yeah, no, it's what makes you feel comfortable, isn't it?
It's what makes you feel good, and having a little bit of that vulnerability. I think I used to work in events when I started in events in Hong Kong. And again, I think my networking or my having to be confident came from living in Hong Kong because I didn't know anyone. I literally didn't know anyone other than my boyfriend who I went with. And I just had to go and find a community and I had to go and find friends and I had to be really vulnerable. And I think we all have to feel like we've got to put on this really brave face and I need to say in 60 seconds, and we talked about this, I need to get my elevator pitch correct. It's like, do you know what? You don't.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable is much more appealing for people to help. And everybody, I'd ask everybody now to think, how does it make you feel when someone asks you for help? How does it make you feel?
Yeah.
You feel good.
Yeah, really
I
good.
want to help you. And especially our Elevate community, especially let's raise that.
Yeah.
We're all in this to help others in whatever way we can. And that makes us feel good. You're giving me a nice bit of serotonin by asking me for my help.
Yeah.
So realize that when you walk into a room, and, be okay to walk up to a group where, show that vulnerability. I'm not a fan of saying sorry for everything. We're very British. We do that.
Right.
But I am a fan of asking for help. And anybody who's dating, if you ask somebody for some help, that's a nice way of working that area of networking.
Dating tips from Sam. Brilliant.
Dating tips from Sam. That's the next podcast. But, ask someone, I don't know anyone in the room. Would you know anyone who might be interested in? Or asking them, be curious. I'm hoping to find out X. So before you go back to that preparation, it's not just about, donning the red lipstick. So what do you want to get out of this? Do you want to go and meet new people? Do you want to go and find new sales opportunities? Do you want to learn? What do you want to learn from others? And go in with a little bit of an action plan. You would for a pitch, you would be in any other scenario. So why wouldn't you do it in a networking way?
Something we do at Elevate at our events is we tell everyone in the room that they're all ambassadors for Elevate, and that if they see anyone that's not being spoken to, that if they want to be spoken to, they should go up and make sure that the person's okay if they're on their own. And it's kind of giving people permission to do that. So, okay, yeah, I can go and talk. It's amazing.
It's empowering, isn't it? That's what it is. And I think when you put everybody in that same, and actually saying that to that room, everybody's heard it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason, but I'm not harping back to dating, but there's a reason why speed dating is still around.
Yeah.
Because it's a tried and tested way of meeting new people. Speed networking, that fills me with dread when I hear those speed dating, speed networking. But they're tried and tested ways of facilitating. You're telling people, we all know, we're all walking into that room knowing we're going to talk to someone with the objective of potentially going out with them for a drink afterwards. Or speed networking, we're going in with that knowledge that I might have something to sell that you might need, or vice versa. So I think, again, that's going back to that organizer, being clear and communicating that to everybody so that we all feel safe. I'm an Elevate ambassador. I can talk to anyone. That's empowering me. And I think that's a really important thing.
So what's a better word then, if we were reframing the word networking, or if we were just to ditch the word completely and come up with a new one, what word would that be?
I'm a fan of ditching imposter syndrome as well, because I think the more we talk ourselves into these things, I think we call it as it is, and I think that will depend on the type of event. So, whether that's, I'm queen of cheese, so I'm a fan of. Why do I always go? Meaningful connections means a lot to me.
Meaningful connections.
I want to go and create meaningful connections. I don't know whether I'm always going to need to. Again, I don't feel that we should think it's always a sales opportunity.
Yeah,
and we have to remember that, especially from the days of being a recruiter, it's not really about what I can sell to you. It's what I can do to help you, who I know that might be able to help you with your problem or your work challenge or whatever it is. And I tell you what, I think every one of us, and I certainly have these incredible people in the Elevate community, Zoe Tubbs, shout out to you, is people who've got commonalities. It's personal. Business is personal. And finding that connection, whether it's, we've just been talking about, non-alcoholic nice drinks. We've got something in common. We'll be talking and then we'll share that. I'll find a new recipe for something. I'll send it to you. You'll then, we'll start those meaningful connections. You'll very likely after that relationship, maybe refer my business to somebody, use my business, recommend me, give me a shout out on social. It's not about the transactions. I think we need to take that out. That would be, how I see what we do at Elevate and other experiences. And that's where the real fun is.
Yeah, the real proper connections are. Yeah, totally. So Sam, what's the largest group of people you've ever had to MC in front of? You've done 10,000 plus online, haven't you? But live
in the room, in the round, which was an experience.
In the round.
So I was center of the room of 4,500, 5,000 people coming in.
5,000 people.
Yeah.
And who were these people? What are them?
They were anesthesiologists.
They were doctors. Wow. Were they fist pumpy doctors, or were they?
Well, I don't know if anybody at 8 o'clock or 8:30 in the morning is overly fist pump. I do actually. So sales, I do a lot of sales kickoffs.
Those people are, yeah.
And when people are walking in, it's a bit like if you're going into I'm going to show my age. if you're going into a Fatboy Slim concert, right?
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
you're accepting.
Yeah.
You're in for the, I was going to sing, but I won't. So add some Fatboy Slim music in there.
Yeah.
If you're going to the Vienna Philharmonic, you're going in with a different vibe. And you'll get that with all audiences, whoever they are. And yeah, I think it's an interesting thing. I think a lot of people go, wow, 5,000 people. 5,000 people are easy to stand in front of because it's a show.
Really?
Yeah, it's a show. It's harder to engage an audience of 50 because you can look into everybody's eyes. You can see 50 people, you can see 150 people, you can see 250 people.
Yeah.
Which tend to be the numbers that we will work with. And you know that you're responsible for actually almost, the proverbial looking in the eyeball of every single one of those people. 5,000 people, you've got to make it a show. It's about physical energy. It's about bringing the best out of those people who are on the stage with you. And yeah, that's a lot of stage management, a lot of rehearsal. Where the good stuff comes in that we all can learn from is from the things that go wrong and, the improvisation that you have to do. And whether that's 5,000, whether that's 50, that's a skill I think everyone should have in their toolbox.
So would you rather talk from a stage to 5,000 people or 5 people in a pitch meeting?
Again, I absolutely give me the big stage. I also, I think you get more from when you've actually really connected with people. So yeah. I think it's fabulous being on that big stage and being super prepared and rehearsed and you've got auto cues and it's all great. But when you're thrown into something and you have to improvise, that's where, and we've all been in those positions, it's sitting and recognizing it or putting ourselves into those positions of improv that once you know how to improvise, you can become unstoppable.
Have you got any tips?
Yeah, well, I think I've got, hilarious stories. They're going to all go in my book. I'm not going to give them all away.
give me your 2 favorite.
I suppose there's 2 great stories. One was an online event that I was hosting and it was an online conference. We'd worked really, really hard at weaving, the energy. And we know that it's not an easy thing to do to keep the energy going. And we'd had a really, really good day. And then we had a session and we absolutely thought that we'd done all the work with it. We knew it was, we anticipated it was going to be great. And it wasn't. And very, very quickly, you could feel the virtual tumbleweed rolling around. There was nothing going on in the chat. I was on 2 WhatsApp groups with the committees and the organisers and getting these big SOS messages. And one of the tips I'll give in this as the story is no one knows what I'm going to do as an MC and no one knows what I'm going to say or when I'm going to say it. But you have a voice, you have an opportunity. So I got an SOS saying we have to do something about this. So I jumped online with a big smile, because if you do anything with a smile, you're normally forgiven. Thanking the speakers and apologising for it to be, showing the vulnerability, apologising for cutting it short. But we have another session to come on. And we did a scavenger hunt. We related it to the organisation. I related it to the organisation. And got people to stand up because I knew by standing up, they would create a bit of energy themselves, a bit of physicality, back to the star jump thing.
Yeah.
Competition, pretty much 99.9% of all audiences like some sort of competition. And then bringing it back to why they were there, bring me something from the organisation that reminds you of. And, 90 seconds and chatting and commentating. And I don't know where it came from, Pete. I'll be really honest with you, but it was something that I just knew I needed those 3 things. Needed to get some energy back in the room. I needed them to recenter on what they were doing. And I needed them to have a bit of a laugh and a bit of fun and a bit of competition. And that was a really, that sticks pretty strongly in my head. And then at a recent sales conference, out of nowhere, we're all very organised. We're all very rehearsed. And then I get told that there's a set change. I said, okay, so we need you to go on. Now, I've done all the links. I've got nothing to say to the audience that they haven't already heard. But I equally don't have any time, and this is improv. I don't know whether I'm going to be needed to be to fill 60 seconds, 6 minutes, 3 minutes. We think it will take them about 2. So it's not enough time to come in and do let's have a reflections moment. Us MCs have a whole load of stuff on a toolkit. I literally had to improvise. So I quickly Googled, because it was a global audience, I quickly Googled, is Simple Simon global?
Brilliant.
And according to Wiki, and I know that I was tight on time. I mean, I literally had about 25 seconds on this. And according to Wiki, yes, it was.
Brilliant.
So they queued me on, I jumped on. And again, there had been a lot of sessions. So there was, the energy physically, people have been sitting down for quite a long time. So I went on and I said hi, and we're going to have a quick game, and explained again, bit of honesty. We got a set change going on. So we're just going to do something. We have a quick game of Sam Says. And down terribly because no one knew who Sam was, because that's quite important. Me, I am Sam, the MC, and we had 1,100 people play Simple Simon.
Brilliant.
And it was a fun thing to see from a stage. People they got up, they got involved, those who could, obviously. Bit of energy. And then it's hilarious with 200 people telling 900 people in the room that I didn't say Sam Says. She didn't say Sam Says, this big whisper. And again, I think going back to that, no one knows what you're going to say when you're going onto a stage in that, whether you're speaking, whether you're pitching, whether you're emceeing, you have that knowledge. They don't. They are going to take whatever it is you've got, if it's going to give them something positive from it, whether that's a moment of energy, whether that's key bits of content, whether that's entertainment. Nobody actually knows what you're going to do when you're in that moment. So if you remember that, you too can play a almighty game of Simple Simon, Simple Sam.
Simple Sam. But it's just having your brain work that fast, isn't it? In the moment when you need to. Like, shit, what do I do?
It's about having that confidence. If you think back, and again, I challenge everybody to just have a look at reflective moments where we've all done it. Yeah. We just don't know we've done it. There are courses. Get online and have a look at improv. Come and get involved with us. We'll happily help anybody. Put yourself in the role of the people who are there. Yeah. That's okay. And also, I suppose in that, what people do think is really none of my business. And that's a big learning for me this year. Everything you do, if you're doing it with authenticity and the intention is positive, then you're going to, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a good response. And if you don't get a good response, that's none of your business. That's how someone else is feeling.
None of your business. Yeah. None of your business what other people think about you.
Yeah, that was one. It's credit to my fabulous coach, Lulu Mins. She is an incredible person at really bringing the confidence of female founders and helping us find our true powers. And it's been something, and I think a lot of us, and if again, back to Evie's podcast, I'm sure that it was discussed in terms of imposter syndrome, is we spend so much time worrying about what other people think. And if we spent that time worrying about what we were actually doing ourselves and focusing on, our confidence, our why, our personal brand, our objectives of what we want to achieve, then I think we'd all see a big shift. I have to say that is sort of stuck. There's 2 things that stick in my brain. What people think is none of my business. That has changed. It's a game changer for me.
Yeah.
And then my other one is believe and act as if it was impossible to fail.
Say that again. That's great.
Believe and act like it is impossible to fail.
Believe and act.
So you walk into that room and think about your body language. So you walk in, you don't give anyone eye contact, you're not smiling, you're a little bit, anxious, fiddling around. Probably
sounds like me.
9 times out of 10, you're on a mobile phone because it's your dummy, your little comfort blanket.
Yeah.
You head straight to get a drink. And that's not believing and acting as if it's impossible to fail. You walk into the room, phone away, upright, knowing what you want out of it. Eye contact with someone, smile at them, they'll smile back. And act and believe as if it's impossible to fail.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
I mean, if that doesn't work, just leave.
Which is what I do. I normally give it 15 minutes, to be honest. Then I'm off.
No, I think you also have to push it. You have to push your boundaries on it. And remember, you don't know what you've got that somebody else might want to hear about. And we've talked about this a lot, sort of off the podcast, is you don't know who you know that might be useful for you to introduce to me. go back to that first story back in the day, that recruitment story. Somebody in that room, and there was more than one person actually, but somebody needed my services. Somebody might need something, again, big fan of championing others, like we say, elevate ambassadors. Have you met my friend? Have you met my colleague Zoe? Do you know Emma? She's an incredible person. Pete, have you connected in with Pete?
Yeah.
Oh, you're struggling with some marketing. Those sorts of things. Go in to help, not go in to sell. I know when you were saying, how do I do an elevator pitch? Don't do one.
Yeah.
You're not pitching.
Yeah.
You're going into a room to create meaningful connections, and that's sharing something that you have that maybe somebody hasn't.
I went to an event recently where I was asked to introduce myself, and I can do it in 30 seconds. And then the woman came after me, spent 15 minutes talking about herself. Oh, hang on. God. Like, wow.
Yeah, I think you need to also, I think how many people listening to this podcast will say, we probably haven't asked this question, but how do we get out of the situation where we do the eye contact, we meet somebody, and then we need to extrapolate ourselves, A, because we're done with the conversation, or B, because we want to move on, we want to escape. It's not fulfilling.
What's your tip?
I think there's a couple of things. I mean, you can always use would you excuse me, I just need to use the bathroom if you want to go really old school, and then hope that they don't want to use the bathroom at the same time. And if they do, let them go in and go out quickly.
I ask people if they want a drink, and then bring them a drink and then leave immediately, because by that time they'll be talking to someone else, or I introduce them to someone else.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Open up, especially if you're in a 2. And again, that's all about body language, I think.
Yeah, welcome other people in.
Out.
Yeah.
And real simple one. Have you 2 met?
Yeah.
And then as soon as you've done that, you can move out. And also, I think we should also, if we're in that honest mode, is that it's been really great talking to you. I'm just going over to chat to my colleague, be honest as well.
Yeah.
But if we're not feeling that comfortable, then open up that conversation using your body language, make sure that people can see, and, introduce that person to somebody else.
Great.
But last fails, grab your coat.
So you were a mentee back when Elevate first started 7 years ago. Tell me that story, because I love this story. Yeah. White cup.
Yes, I signed up to be a mentee. I was just beginning my entrepreneurial journey. And as anyone who knows me, I'm an absolute super fan of Mel and a super fan of Max. So I wanted to get involved.
Aren't we all?
And so I was paired up with Ben Cole. And I think many people, should know him, little legend that is Ben. And it was a really, really nice experience that we had. Of course, I didn't know whether he had a nice experience. I certainly had a great experience learning from him.
I bet he did.
And 7 years ago, as you said, it doesn't feel that long. And then fast forward 7 years, and I got a message from Ben. And we follow on LinkedIn, but, certainly the experience was that. And he went off and carried on and did great things. And I went off and did my thing. So we weren't, hugely in touch. I think it's safe to say he'd be okay with me saying that. But, fast forward 7 years later, he had been following, like I'd been following from afar via social and what have you, and saw conferenceemcees.com, had a client that needed 6 MCs. There was literally nowhere else that he knew of to go to, gave me a ring. And it was the most amazing feeling that, the power of the network isn't about, the connection from 7 years ago. It's from the relationship and the journey that happens after that. And I think we all need to look at, it's not just about what you do in that room, it's what happens as a consequence. And Ben and I had a great chat. It was really lovely to hear where he was and share a little bit more where I was. And we were fortunate to be able to get the opportunity to work together, which was really, really great. And it's, thanks to building up those skills and keeping up that networking offline that resulted in that, which it's a really nice Elevate success story, I think.
That's lovely. I love it. And now you're back as a mentor this year.
Yeah.
Gone very well. How's that?
I would totally recommend anybody coming. I had a real challenge signing up to become a mentor. I didn't feel like perhaps I had enough to to share with anyone.
I'm amazed there, to be honest.
Well, that's, we all have that.
Well, I know, but there you go. Listen,
yeah, you got to be able to sort of, self-authorize, your ability. And so this year, that was putting me and pushing me a little bit out of my comfort zone, which I think we all need to do, which is part of that offside.
Yeah.
And I was lovely, incredible mentee that I got to work with, Chloe. And what a great experience. And for me, big surprise, I learned so much, about myself and how I could mentor.
Yeah.
And how much I got out of the experience was a real pleasant surprise. Fabulous relationship with my mentee. It's really nice, again, not with any high expectations, but, working together and seeing some changes and some impact that spending time together had. Yeah, it's been a really, really great experience. So yeah, for anybody who doesn't think, whether you've got a year in the industry or, 100 years in the industry, one of the things I've always said and says is you don't know what you don't know. So, share what you do know with others. And yeah, I've loved every second. So thanks, Elevate and Chloe.
Well, you don't know what you don't know. You are a wise woman. Thank you so much, Sam. Top advice. You're brilliant. Thank you.
It's been a joy, and I hope to see some of you wonderful Elevate folks at Meaningful Connections events soon.
Meaningful Connections, not networking, never networking.
Take care.
Thanks, Sam. Cheers.
Elevate is a pioneering free mentoring program that has been designed with a specific goal in mind: to inspire, inform, and empower people within the events industry. Elevate and this podcast is powered by the generosity of our partners and supporters. We are Collider, Our Live, The Hoxton, Special Source, The Venue Group, the Association of British Professional Conference Organisers, Castle Bell, Event Decision, Times 10 and TRO. Together, we're changing lives, careers and the events industry for the better.